the silent hunter. The void of space stretched endlessly around the Keltheran exploration vessel Crimson Tide. Admiral Zix stood on the bridge, his forearms crossed behind his back as he studied the readings on the main display. His species had ruled this sector of the galaxy for over 2 millennia, and nothing ever surprised them anymore. The Keltherans were masters of technology, diplomacy, and war. They had brought peace to countless worlds and order to chaotic systems, but today something was different. Something floated in the darkness ahead that didn't belong in their carefully catalogued universe. Navigation Officer Keith approached from her station. "Admiral, we're detecting an unknown vessel approximately 10,000 kilometers ahead. It appears to be drifting without power." Zix moved to the central command platform, his elongated purple form casting shadows under the bridges. Blue lighting. On the main screen, a ship slowly rotated in the void. It was unlike anything in their extensive databases. Where Keltheran vessels were elegant curves of living metal that flowed like liquid starlight, this craft was all harsh angles and brutal functionality. Deep scars covered its dark hull, and strange markings ran along its sides in a language no computer could translate. "Analysis, Science Officer Vren," Zix commanded. Vren's 6 eyes focused on his instruments. "The vessel is massive, Admiral, nearly 3 times our size. The hull appears to be composed of an unknown metal alloy. I'm detecting no power signatures, no life signs, no electromagnetic emissions of any kind. By all measurements, it's completely dead." The alien ship hung motionless against the backdrop of distant stars. Its hull was a deep gray that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Weapon ports dotted its surface like sleeping eyes, and strange symbols glowed faintly along its flanks. The design spoke of a species that understood violence in ways the peaceful Keltherans could barely imagine. "Could this be from the species our scouts reported?" asked Keth. "The ones from the third arm who call themselves humans?" Zix nodded thoughtfully. The Keltheran Empire had received scattered intelligence about a young species expanding slowly into nearby systems. The reports described them as primitives who still used chemical propulsion and basic energy weapons. They were said to be aggressive, but technologically inferior, hardly worth the attention of a galactic power. This ship, however, suggested something far more sophisticated than those early assessments had indicated. "Begin standard salvage protocols," Zix ordered. "We'll tow it back to Research Station Omega. The Science Division will want to study this thoroughly." As the crew prepared the tractor beam, Lieutenant Koss at the sensor station suddenly straightened. "Admiral, I'm detecting power fluctuations from the vessel. Very faint, but definitely present." Before Zix could respond, the dead ship blazed to life. Energy readings spiked across every instrument on the bridge. Lights raced along the alien hull in complex patterns, and the strange symbols began to pulse with an inner fire. The vessel turned with smooth, predatory grace to face the Keltheran ship directly. "This is Captain Maya Rodriguez of the Terran vessel Starbreaker," came a voice over their communication system. The words were automatically translated, but the tone was unmistakable, calm, professional, completely unafraid. "You have approached a military vessel of the Terran Republic. State your intentions immediately." The bridge crew exchanged shocked glances. Admiral Zix felt his confidence return quickly. One ship against his fleet. The humans were either incredibly brave or completely foolish. The Keltheran Empire had never met a species that could match their technological superiority. "I am Admiral Zix of the Keltheran Empire," he replied formally. "Your vessel appeared to be in distress. We were attempting to render assistance under galactic salvage protocols." There was a brief pause. "Negative, Admiral. We were conducting reconnaissance operations in this sector. Please maintain your current distance to avoid any misunderstandings." Zix's pride flared hot. These primitive humans dared to give orders to a Keltheran admiral. His species had been mastering faster-than-light travel when most races were still discovering fire. They had built the largest empire in known space, through superior technology and strategic thinking. "Human vessel," Zix said coldly. "You will submit to inspection. This sector falls under Imperial authority." "Admiral," the human captain replied, her voice still maddeningly calm. I must inform you that we do not recognize Imperial authority over this region of space. Please withdraw to avoid an incident." The audacity was breathtaking. Zix looked around his bridge at his experienced officers. They had fought in dozens of campaigns and never met a species that didn't eventually bend to Imperial will. These humans would learn their place in the Galactic Order. "Prepare boarding shuttles," Zix commanded. "We will take this vessel and its crew for examination." Captain Rodriguez's response was immediate. "Admiral, I strongly advise against that course of action." But Zix was no longer listening. The Keltharan Empire had peacefully absorbed over 100 species. Those who resisted learned quickly that cooperation was their only option. These humans would be no different. 30 minutes later, the first Keltharan shuttle attached to the human ship's outer hull. The boarding team consisted of the Empire's finest warriors, equipped with the most advanced armor and weapons Keltharan technology could provide. They cut through the hull with plasma torches and dropped into the ship's corridors, expecting to find frightened primitives cowering in the dark. Instead, they found something that would haunt galactic military strategy for generations to come. The human ship's interior was a maze of narrow corridors bathed in red emergency lighting. Everything was built for function over form, with reinforced blast doors that could seal off sections in milliseconds. The walls were lined with what looked like weapon storage lockers, and strange tactical displays showed incomprehensible data streams. The Keltharan boarding team moved carefully through the ship, their energy weapons ready. They were veterans of dozens of similar operations. They expected to overwhelm any resistance through superior training and technology. The humans were waiting for them, not hiding behind improvised barriers or running in panic, but positioned with military precision at every choke point and intersection. They moved through combat like they had been born for it, every action calculated and efficient. The Keltharan's advanced armor meant nothing against weapons that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Their elite training crumbled against enemies who fought without emotion or hesitation. The battle in the corridors lasted exactly 8 minutes and 37 seconds. When the shooting stopped, every single human defender was uninjured. The Keltharan boarding team, however, had been completely neutralized. The survivors, only 4 out of 20, found themselves disarmed and restrained with their own equipment. "Security Chief Williams to bridge," came a voice over the internal communication system. "Boarding party neutralized, Captain. No casualties on our side. Standard detention protocols implemented." On the bridge of the Crimson Tide, Admiral Zix stared at the reports from his boarding team in growing horror. His best warriors, soldiers who had never known defeat, had been systematically dismantled by what the humans casually referred to as routine security personnel. "Admiral," Captain Rodriguez's voice came over the radio again. "Your people are alive and unharmed. They're being treated according to the Terran rules of engagement. I suggest we end this encounter before anyone gets seriously hurt." Zix felt something he had never experienced in his long military career. Not just fear of death, but fear of the unknown. These humans approached combat with the same calm efficiency they might use to perform maintenance or file reports. There was no anger, no excitement, no passion. They simply executed violence as a technical problem to be solved. The surviving Keltharans were returned to their shuttle along with their equipment and detailed medical scans of their fallen comrades. They weren't harmed, interrogated, or even questioned extensively. The humans simply processed them like any other administrative task and sent them home. As the Crimson Tide retreated to a safe distance, Admiral Zix studied the combat recordings from his boarding team's armor systems. He watched his elite warriors fall with growing understanding of what they had encountered. The humans moved through battle like dancers following choreographed steps. Every shot found its target. Every movement served a purpose. They killed without hatred and showed mercy without weakness. "Admiral," whispered Science Officer Vren, "what are these humans?" As the Crimson Tide retreated to a safe distance, Admiral Zix studied the combat recordings from his boarding team's armor systems. He watched his elite warriors fall with growing understanding of what they had encountered. The humans moved through battle like dancers following choreographed steps. Every shot found its target. Every movement served a purpose. They killed without hatred and showed mercy without weakness. "Admiral," whispered Science Officer Vren, "what are these humans?" Zix didn't answer immediately. He was thinking about Captain Rodriguez's voice throughout the encounter. Calm, professional, almost bored. She had defeated his boarding party, like it was routine maintenance, then let him live to carry the message back to his people that more than anything else filled him with dread. The human ship Starbreaker watched the Keltheran vessel retreat into hyperspace. On her bridge, Captain Maya Rodriguez made a brief entry in the ship's log about the encounter. She classified it as a minor first contact incident and requested that Terran Command send a diplomatic team to establish formal relations with the Keltheran Empire. She had no way of knowing that she had just ignited a chain reaction that would transform the entire galactic balance of power. The age of human isolation was ending, and the universe would never be the same again. The Galactic Awakening, the emergency session of the Galactic Council, convened 3 days after Admiral Zix's report reached the Keltheran imperial capital. Representatives from 47 major civilizations gathered in the massive crystal chambers of Nexus Station, the neutral hub that had served as the center of galactic politics for over 1,000 years. Chancellor Vorth of the Keltheran Empire stood at the central podium, his forearms gesturing as he addressed the assembled delegates. The holographic displays around the chamber showed tactical analyses, energy readings, and combat recordings from the encounter with the human vessel. "Esteemed colleagues," Vorth began, his voice carrying across the chamber, "we face a situation unprecedented in recorded galactic history. A species we believe to be primitive has demonstrated military capabilities that challenge our fundamental understanding of technological development." Ambassador Threx of the Zephyrian Coalition leaned forward in his floating chair. "Chancellor, with respect, are we truly to believe that a single ship defeated an Imperial boarding party? Your forces have conquered entire star systems." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Keltherans were known throughout the galaxy for their military precision. If their elite warriors had been defeated so easily, what did that mean for the rest of galactic civilization? "The evidence is undeniable," Vorth replied grimly. "I will now share Admiral Zix's complete report with the Council." The lights dimmed as holographic recreations of the battle filled the chamber. The delegates watched in stunned silence as Keltharan warriors were systematically outmaneuvered and defeated by human defenders who moved with inhuman precision and coordination. High Magistrate Kellen of the Ancient Dominion spoke first when the display ended. "The tactical patterns are unlike anything in our databases. These humans fight as if they've been at war for millennia, not the few centuries our intelligence suggested." "Perhaps," interjected Dr. Yelan of the Scientific Collective, "our intelligence was incomplete. Consider the implications. If this single vessel represents standard human military capability, how many more ships like it exist?" The question hung in the air like a physical presence. Every civilization in the galaxy had based their strategic planning on the assumption that humans were a young, primitive species confined to a few systems near their homeworld. If that assumption was wrong, then every military calculation, every territorial agreement, every balance of power equation needed to be reconsidered. "We must know more," declared Admiral Korvash of the Stellar Navy. "I propose immediate reconnaissance missions to human space. We need accurate intelligence on their true capabilities." Ambassador Kira of the Trade Federation raised a metallic hand. "With respect, Admiral, the Keltherans attempted exactly that approach. The result speaks for itself. Perhaps diplomacy would serve us better than espionage." As the debate continued, deep space sensors across the galaxy began detecting something that would make their discussions irrelevant. Hundreds of ships were moving through hyperspace along routes that hadn't seen traffic in decades. The signatures were unlike anything in the known databases, but the patterns were unmistakable. Someone was conducting massive fleet movements on a scale not seen since the Great War 500 years ago. The first reports reached Nexus Station within hours. A Keltheran patrol fleet had encountered a human convoy near the Vega Nebula, but this wasn't a single reconnaissance vessel like the Starbreaker. This was a full battle group consisting of 12 heavy cruisers, 36 escort frigates, and support vessels that defied easy classification. The human fleet commander had identified herself as Admiral Lisa Park of the Terran Expeditionary Force. She had been polite but firm in her message to the Keltheran patrol. Human space now extended far beyond the boundaries that galactic intelligence had assumed. The Terran Republic claimed sovereignty over 17 star systems and was in the process of establishing colonies in 12 more. Within 6 hours, similar encounters were reported across a front spanning nearly 1,000 light-years. Human fleets were operating in regions that had been considered empty space or minor contested zones. They weren't expanding into the galaxy slowly as everyone had believed. They had already arrived. The revelation struck the Galactic Council like a physical blow. Ambassador after ambassador stood to report new intelligence from their respective territories. The humans weren't just present in nearby systems. They had established a network of bases, supply routes, and defensive positions that suggested decades of careful planning and preparation. "They've been watching us," whispered High Magistrate Kellen. "All this time, while we dismiss them as primitives, they've been studying our movements, our capabilities, our weaknesses." The full scope of human expansion became clear over the following days. The Terran Republic had grown far beyond anyone's estimates, but they had done so quietly, avoiding major shipping lanes and established territories. They had built their civilization in the spaces between empires, in regions considered worthless or too dangerous for colonization. More disturbing was the revelation of human technological capabilities. Their ships weren't just militarily superior to anything the Keltherans could field. They represented a completely different approach to spacefaring technology. Where galactic civilization had focused on elegant solutions and efficient resource management, humans had built for survivability and adaptability. Their vessels could operate in environments that would destroy conventional ships. They could repair themselves using raw materials scavenged from asteroids or damaged enemy vessels. Most importantly, they were designed to function independently for extended periods without supply line support. Dr. Yilan presented her analysis to a packed emergency session. "The humans have solved the fundamental logistical problems that limit every other species' expansion rate. They don't need to establish trade networks or supply chains to support their fleets. Each ship is essentially a self-contained manufacturing and resource processing facility." The implications were staggering. Every military strategist in the galaxy had assumed that rapid expansion was impossible because of supply line vulnerabilities. The humans had simply engineered around that limitation. But the most significant revelation came from an unexpected source. A human diplomatic vessel arrived at Nexus Station requesting permission to address the Galactic Council. The ship was sleek and obviously civilian, but sensors detected defensive systems that would make many military vessels envious. Ambassador Elena Vasquez of the Terran Republic took the central podium with the calm confidence that was becoming the trademark of human interactions. She was middle-aged with graying hair and lines around her eyes that spoke of years spent making difficult decisions. "Honored delegates," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems, "I come before you to correct several misunderstandings about humanity's place in this galaxy." She gestured, and holographic displays filled the chamber with star charts showing the true extent of human territory. The collective intake of breath from the assembled delegates was audible. The Terran Republic currently administers 43 star systems directly and maintains defense agreements with 17 additional human colonies that have chosen independent governance. Our population exceeds 2 billion across these territories, and we have established industrial capacity sufficient to support continued expansion. The numbers were impossible to ignore. Humanity had built a civilization that rivaled any existing galactic power, and they had done it without anyone noticing. "How?" demanded Chancellor Vorth. "Our intelligence networks span the entire galaxy. How did you hide such massive expansion?" Ambassador Vasquez smiled slightly. "You weren't looking for us, Chancellor. Your intelligence services focused on established shipping lanes, resource-rich systems, and strategically important locations. Humans prefer systems that other species consider marginal or dangerous. We've built our civilization in the spaces you overlooked. The truth was elegant, in its simplicity. While galactic powers had fought over prime real estate, humans had quietly claimed the regions everyone else ignored. Asteroid fields that made navigation difficult, systems with unstable stars that required constant monitoring, worlds with harsh environments that demanded technological adaptation. These marginal territories had been perfect for a species that specialized in making the impossible work. Humans had turned disadvantages into advantages, building a network of bases and colonies that were invisible to conventional intelligence gathering. "What are your intentions?" asked High Magistrate Kellen. "Do you seek conflict with the existing galactic order?" "Quite the opposite," Ambassador Vasquez replied. "The Terran Republic seeks peaceful coexistence and mutual cooperation with all galactic civilizations. We're prepared to offer technology transfers, defense agreements, and trade partnerships to any nation interested in formal diplomatic relations." The offer was as shocking as everything else about the human revelation. Instead of demanding territory or threatening established powers, they were proposing integration into the existing galactic community as equals. But equality was the problem. The entire galactic order was based on carefully balanced power relationships that had taken centuries to establish. The sudden appearance of a major new player would upset every existing agreement and alliance. Over the following weeks, the reality of the new galactic situation became clear. Humanity had not only established a major civilization without anyone noticing, they had done so while developing technologies that surpassed established galactic standards in key areas. Their military capabilities were superior to any existing force. Their industrial capacity allowed for rapid expansion and adaptation. Most importantly, their approach to problem-solving suggested they would continue to develop faster than their neighbors. The galaxy had awakened to find that the young species they had ignored had become one of the most powerful civilizations in known space. The balance of power that had maintained peace for generations was permanently altered. Some species chose to embrace the change, establishing diplomatic relations and trade agreements with the Terran Republic. Others began military preparations, viewing humanity as a threat to be contained or eliminated. But for every alien leader making plans based on humanity's demonstrated capabilities, there were others who wondered what other surprises the humans might reveal. If they had hidden such massive expansion for decades, what other secrets might they be keeping? The universe had entered a new age, and no one could predict where it would lead. The only certainty was that the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. The aftermath of first contact was still echoing through the stars, and the final consequences were only beginning to unfold.